What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mission Z Empowering Change podcast. Brought to you by our sponsors, Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program for drug abuse prevention and mental health awareness. Check out all of our programs and find out how our 3 pillars of action will help the students, parents, and professionals in your community face down the ongoing drug overdose and mental health crisis ravaging our communities by going to www.longislandprep.org and our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids face today, including mental health awareness and drug abuse prevention strategies for teachers in the classroom and parents at home. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. And Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. I'm Paul Vecchione. It's great to be here with you today as we bring our conversation to you to discuss the issues that Generation Z, our children, are facing today. The Mission Z podcast is here to bring people out there who are dedicated to making a difference here with us to talk about what they're doing and how their work is impacting our world and how they're making a difference to help others around them and how a call to action can empower change. So that's what we're here to do today. Today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. You can go to www.ddsforvets.org for more information. And DDS for Vets is sponsoring our second annual Mental Health Matters Night of Inspiration on May 23rd at Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall in Wantagh, Long Island. We have a great night planned, some food, cocktails, entertainment, amazing presentations, and honorees. Jackie the Joke Man Martling will be there, Paul Fraze, Ray Cash Care, and so many more amazing people to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month on May 23rd of this year. So stay tuned for more information about this amazing night. But today we're here to talk to 2 wonderful people. Jenny Valderas, Senior Director of Family Support Service for Operation Homefront, a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to build strong, stable, and secure military families. And 2022 Military Child of the Year Award recipient representing the Army is Elena Ashburn. Looking forward to this conversation today. And we want to hear all about Operation Homefront and how this organization is helping our military families. So let's bring on Jenny and Elena to get the story here. Welcome, ladies. How are we doing today?
Good. How are you?
I couldn't be better. Wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I want to hear all about Operation Homefront. Jenny, as the Senior Director of Family Support Services, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about the organization, its mission, its purpose, and how it came to be?
Of course. So at Operation Homefront, our mission is to build strong, stable, and secure military families so that they can thrive, not simply struggle to get by in the our communities that they've worked so hard to protect. And that's done through our relief and recurring family support programs, including our Military Child of the Year Award, which is now in its 16th year.
Wow, excellent. So, all right, Elena, so tell us a little bit about how it came to be with you. I know you are the 2022 recipient of that award. So tell us about that. Tell us about the process and, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so my name is Elena. I'm a second-year political science and international studies student at the University of Florida. So go Gators out there if you're listening. I became involved with Operation Homefront when I was in high school. When I was 16, I started what started out as a blog with my best friend during COVID, as a place where military kids could sort of share their emotions, and other military kids could find support and representation in stories that relate to their lives as well. And it really blew up really quickly. I think probably due to the time, as everyone was home alone and just looking for a lot of connection. And so it eventually grew into what is now a nonprofit organization called Bloom. And I applied, or I was nominated for Military Child of the Year twice, actually. The first year was in 2021, and then in 2022, I actually won and was the Military Child of the Year for the Army, which was so awesome and one of my like best memories, I would say, for sure.
I'm sure. I mean, that is a real honor. And, I know you guys probably heard me talking about it with the intro, but I had the privilege of speaking with the founder of another military assistance organization recently, DDS for Vets, which helps servicemen and women who receive, who kind of come back from theater or from overseas. They help them kind of get back into society. Maybe they're suffering from some PTSD or some other mental health or substance abuse issues. So they do it with service dogs and therapy. And, I kind of said this on the podcast with the founder, Deb Doherty. I don't know if people truly understand the sacrifice that our military personnel endure, so I know Operation Homefront kind of parallels this sentiment, with your efforts, helping families and stuff. So tell us about that a little bit. How specifically does Operation Homefront do that?
Of course. So we have recurring family support programs like Military Child of the Year. We also have some other great events throughout the year, our back to school brigades, our holiday meals for military, Star Spangled Babies, holiday toy drives. So we're really focusing on the families because it really is the family that serves. It's really important that we're providing them their support in the time of need, especially since our families, our military families really go through a lot. Deployments, constant moving. Our families sometimes are found in situations where they're starting over, not knowing their local community, not knowing anyone else. And it's really important that they build a network of support. And we offer that through our events. At our Back to School Brigade events, we always make sure we have other local community partners and resources available to them so that they can start building that network of support so that they can continue to thrive in those communities that they're in.
Yeah. So, Elena, tell us a little bit about your situation. I mean, look, you're the 2022 recipient of this award, so of course, congratulations again. But tell us about the impact, of being a military child. I can remember, I think it was like maybe late elementary school or maybe early middle school, having a friend be there every day, sitting next to me in class, and then boom, all of a sudden he was gone. We didn't really understand why. I think at 12 or 13 years old, why all of a sudden somebody was no longer in school, but it turned out that he had a parent in the military, so they had to move to Virginia, from up here in Long Island. So, I'm sure that takes a toll growing up, where you're not really in one place all the time. You have to make new friends and you have to do other things, to kind of acclimate to your situation. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Elena, how that was for you growing up?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of military kids' experiences are kind of similar, but also in the same way. They're very, very different. I was really fortunate enough to be able to live like all over, but mostly in the United States. I was born in Germany, and then my family is a part of the Exceptional Family Member Program because I have a disability. So we were moved to the States, and ever since then, we've lived all over the Eastern Seaboard pretty much, several different times in Florida, Alabama, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and my dad just retired to Louisville, Kentucky, which is where we are now. But I would say, yeah, it was pretty difficult. I mean, it really became hard to leave friends pretty often. And I'd say even more so, what took more of had more of an impact on me personally was having to go through deployments, especially when I got older and I kind of realized the gravity of what my dad was doing and like how he might not be able to come back. Or if he came back, he might have, life altering problems that would affect him and my family for the rest of, our lives. That I'd say was something that as a young, girl was a lot to take in. You realize really quickly a lot of really stark truths about the world in the military family that you probably don't if you're not But that being said, I definitely wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I've gotten to experience so many different cultures and visit so many different places that I would have not been able to otherwise. And overall, I'd say that just about every military kid I've talked to has felt very similarly. Although it's definitely hard, it's not something that we would, trade for anything else.
Yeah. So what's it like growing up in Germany? I mean, how long were you actually in Germany?
Oh, a month. I don't remember
Oh,
any of it.
okay. Okay.
But my family recently went back to Germany over winter break, because we have friends stationed there
Yeah.
currently in Wiesbaden. And that was my family's first time back since we moved, and it was really awesome. I think not only for my parents, but for my entire family. I have two little brothers as well who had never lived overseas, um, to experience where like our family kind of started, and where I was born, and for my parents getting to relive that portion of their life and to reconnect with that was really special.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, that sounds like, listen, I didn't go very far growing up. I mean, we went on vacation and stuff, but it was never it was never, all over the world and stuff. So I know that, military families have, different sacrifice and different situations ongoing. So, that had a lot to do with obviously you receiving this award. So Jenny, I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the process. How does one become, this great honor? How does one receive, to be this award-winning recipient?
Of course, so nominations typically open around the September timeframe. And the great thing about the Military Child of the Year Award is that anyone can nominate a military child, a parent, sibling, coach, counselor, next door neighbor, friend of a friend. Anyone can nominate a military child. And if they, for some reason, don't get selected when they're nominated the first time, always be nominated again next time. There are a couple of eligibility requirements. They must be between the ages of 13 to 18 years old at the time of nomination, and they must be a legal dependent of a service member or military retiree. So what happens is they're nominated, they go through an extensive process of finding out if they become semifinalists, to finalists, to then to the lucky recipients. And the ideal Military Child of the Year candidate displays dedications to excellence in school and honor societies, civic associations and clubs, sports and volunteerism. They also demonstrate resiliency, leadership, and achievements during their parents' military service. And this year we had over 700 nominations from across the United States for the Military Child of the Year award.
Wow. And I was reading the information before you guys came on, and there's one award per branch of each service. Is that right?
That's right. There's one award per branch for each service branch of the armed forces. So we have the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, and National Guard.
Wow. So now, Elena, how does this set you up for the future? I know you said that, so you're in college right now, right?
Yes, sir. I would say for me, it's been absolutely not only incredible experience. Obviously, the winners do get to go to DC for a couple days on behalf of Operation Homefront for the gala, and also for a whole fun week of festivities. Their whole family goes. It was a blast. And they get to meet all of the other award recipients. And that, first off, was a great experience. I still keep in touch with all of the other winners from 2022. We have a big group chat. We like to keep up with everyone's lives. But it's a great way to foster those sorts of relationships with similarly, super high achieving and super bright, intelligent, awesome kids who are going to definitely change the world. So in that respect, it was really, really awesome. And it also was a great opportunity for me to connect with people within the sphere. I got to meet so many people through this experience, not just other military kids, but people who actually serve in the military or in military related organizations. And that's given me contacts as someone who currently works in that sphere that I didn't have before. And then also, I'd say the thing that's been one of the most helpful things for me as a college student is part of the award prize. I mean, it's expensive to go to college, and to have, this scholarship basically that I'm going on because of Operation Homefront to be able to help fund, my education has been so incredibly helpful and has really set me up for success as I enter this new chapter of my life.
Sure. So it's obviously more than the $10,000 in a laptop, right? You kind of get placed in this, I guess, this stratosphere of people who, you can now make connections with and network with to kind of set yourself up for afterwards, right?
Yeah, it's been really awesome. I've got to meet all sorts of people. I've gotten private tours at the Pentagon, all of these things that I never would have had if I hadn't made those connections with people because of Operation Homefront.
That's great. So Jenny, I know that you are also the spouse, right, of somebody who is in the military. So you can kind
Yeah.
of speak to the other side of this, right? So obviously, Lena had the experience growing up as a child, but you are married to somebody in the military, so you probably know a lot of what Elena went through, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I am the spouse. My husband is now retired from the Navy. So as a military spouse, you really do get to see all the hardships that our military families do go through. But one of the things that really sticks out with our military child of the year recipients is that they're just so energized to really incorporate themselves in their local communities.
Mhm.
Every child that came in and that has received the award and conversations we've had, their main focus had always been, yes, we might move constantly, we might have to make new friends, but as Elena mentioned, they always say that's also positive. They're gaining new experiences, they're learning and seeing new cultures. So it's something that really forms them and molds them into something they want to be and learn more about in the future. So it's really great to see all of these kids coming up and seeing, any hardships that someone else might see as a move or starting at a new school or making new friends as hard. They see it as hard, but they also see it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn. So it's really exciting to hear Elena mention that she's still friends with our recipients from McCoy when she was the recipient of the winner. And that is something very common that we see with our McCoy recipients is they form that bond quickly as soon as they meet. They meet the first day and they're still chatting years later.
Right. And, I will preface this right off the bat and say I'm not in the military. I never was in the military. But I have the utmost respect for those who go and serve, our country. And I think that, that camaraderie that you're talking about, right, being involved with, like-minded people and people who can, relate to what you're doing, who are doing what you're doing, and then you kind of go off on your way with them as part of, as part of your life and part of your network. So, it's something that's really honorable. And, thank you for your service, because I think that a lot of people may not understand the sacrifice that military families go through. And, I always kind of broach this question because I think there's some kind of, I don't know if it's a stigma or maybe a thought process that our military families are not taken care of to the extent that they should be. Whether it's vets coming home or like you said, people like you guys who are, involved in it growing up or, married to somebody. So can you kind of talk about that for a while? How does that kind of play into all of this? I know Operation Homefront, its goal is to help military families. Are there enough of those out there, and do we need more, you think? Either one of you.
So we definitely think it's important when our families are integrating into our communities that I think one of the things that's really helpful is welcoming them. From what I've heard from our kids is sometimes it's really hard to be the first one to say hello and make that first connection. So if you could make it easier by being that first introduction. So as I mentioned at our back to school brigade events, we try to bring in other organizations that are available, other resources that are available to the families so that they can start making those connections and start seeing what's available in their local communities.
Right. Elena, how has that kind of impacted where you're at then?
I would say in terms of, I would agree a lot with what you're saying about like welcoming military families into the communities. But I guess from the perspective of a kid, I think it's also really important that not just members of the community, but also, parents and family members, teachers and like athletic coaches, they really take the time to listen because oftentimes a lot of military kids are really happy to talk about their experiences. But sometimes, like you said, it's kind of hard to like initiate that, especially when they feel like other people might not be able to relate. I know something that I personally struggled with was although, my parents and I led the same life. We all lived together, obviously. We definitely had very different perspectives on it because of the age difference and because I was going through this as a kid and they were going through it as adults and had different responsibilities and perspectives and priorities than I did. And that's something that can sometimes feel a little isolating. So I definitely recommend, initiating that conversation with military kids in your life. Like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, how can I support you in this time? And reaching out like that, because that can be a great way to start a conversation.
Yeah. So let's go through the actual process for you then, Elaine. So tell me how, when you get nominated, right? I know somebody or anybody can nominate you, right? So you hear about you're nominated. Okay, that's awesome. What an honor. But how do you get from being nominated now to actually receiving the award? And what is that like going through that?
Well, back in my day, when I it might be different now, but when it was 2022, I was nominated by one of my best friend's moms. And I was invited to do an interview via phone once I had reached a certain level of, I think, a semifinalists were invited to do a interview via phone. And I remember that I thought that interview was so bad. I was like crying in the middle of it. I'd had a bad day. It was a bad interview. And I remember like getting really upset after and like sitting with my mom being like, I like bombed that. Like that was bad. And my mom was like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, you know what? Things happen. Like okay." Um, and then the day that then it's radio silence until you learn you're a finalist, and then it's radio silence until you learn you win. You have no control over that process. That's up to them. So you just kind of have to sit there and wait patiently. And I remember that the day that I learned that I won, they had reached out to my parents to tell them that I had won. I didn't personally receive the email, and I was at school. All of a sudden, my phone is blowing up with texts from my uncle, being like, "Congratulations, we're so proud of you." And I'm like, "What on earth could this be about?" Because I had no clue. I thought like my parents, like maybe I was around when I was getting like college decisions back. Maybe I was like, my parents telling that I got into college somewhere. Like, I don't know. And I texted my parents like a screenshot. And I was like, "What is he talking about?" And so my parents had to call me and tell me. They were trying to wait until I got home to like celebrate
Wow.
with me. But my uncle spoiled it for me. And they had to call me and tell me when I was at school. So
Wow. Wow. That's so cool. And Jenny, I mean, I know you said you get what, hundreds of applicants a year, right? I mean, so how do you, I know you went through it a little bit, but tell us how how does somebody come to the point where it's like, yeah, you know what, you're going to receive this award and really it could change their lives, right?
Absolutely. So once they do get nominated, we do go through the process of getting to our semifinalists and finalist phase of Military Child of the Year. And as Elena mentioned, it is a little bit radio silent for a little bit. Once the recipients are selected, we do contact the parents. So it's always fun to hear the parents' reaction. We do not get to hear the child's reaction. So, I'm so glad that you're sharing that story because the parents react somewhat the same. It's, wait, are you sure? Really? Yes, she won. So once we get to that process, we do let the families know, and we start the process of getting the information so that they can head over to DC for a couple of fun days with the Operation Homefront staff, and of course our gala to top it off to recognize all of the kids.
Very cool. And I definitely want to hear about all that. Let's just let's take a quick break to hear from the people who make the Mission Z podcast possible. Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast are Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who wants you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. Okay, and today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. You can go to www.ddsforvets.org for more information, and you can learn all about DDS for Vets, just an amazing organization helping our veterans struggling with PTSD. At Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall for our second annual Mental Health Matters Night of Inspiration. That's this May 23rd. We're looking forward to that, and we are here today on the podcast talking to Jenny Valderas, Senior Director of Family Support Service for another amazing organization that is helping our servicemen and women and their families. It's called Operation Homefront, a national non-for-profit organization whose mission is to build strong, stable, and secure military families. And we are with 2022 Military Child of the Year Award recipient, representing the Army, Elena Ashburn. So let's hear about the aftermath, Elena. So now you've been nominated, you got the prestigious award. Now it's the accolades. So talk about what that's like for you.
Yeah, so when I, received the award and I got to go to DC, the first thing that I got to do was meet all of the other kids and get to know them with a little reception for all of the families. And that was so cool. We got to meet each other and exchange our experiences. David, who was at the time, I think he was the innovation winner my year. He had come from Korea, and so he had literally gotten off the plane that day, like a 16-hour flight to get to DC. Poor kid was so tired, but we ended up spending a lot of the night just chatting with each other and getting to know each other. And the next morning, bright and early, we went on a tour of DC in this giant bus. And it was really cool because I lived in DC for a time. I spent my kindergarten years there. And so it was nice for my whole family to experience that again. Especially my little brothers who don't really remember living in DC because they were so young. Because you do get to bring your family with you. So it was awesome that I got to have not only my parents, but my little brothers too. And then we also went to a Caps game, a hockey game. I'm a big hockey fan. So that was really, really, really fun for me. And then the next day we spent doing interviews and getting ready for the gala, which we had that night. And that was one of the most special experiences I think I remember. I've never felt more famous in my life. I think I was I feel like this is the Oscars.
Right.
Oh my goodness. We had a special performance by this great country singer, and we had, this amazing, banquet, and we got to hear from all of these different generals and admirals in all of the different branches talking about the kid who had won in their branch. And it was just so amazing to see all of my now close friends being highlighted in that way, and also getting to hear about their accolades, because when we're meeting each other, we're not really rolling off the resume. And so to meet them and know them as people first, and then to hear all of these great things that they've accomplished, it just makes you even more excited for them. But yeah, I would definitely say it was one of the most fun experiences I've had, and I definitely really cherish and look back on it a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. And I have to ask you, was it a little bit intimidating? Again, I didn't grow up around a lot of military personnel, but I have to tell you the truth, when I'm in the presence of, I don't know if I've ever been in the presence of a general, but, rank and file, or, people who are in the military, you guys are so, obviously you handle yourselves with such dignity and, such gait. For me, it's wow, these men and women are not only doing amazing service, but they're special people, and for a civilian, it could be a little intimidating. So for a kid who's getting this award, I'm sure it was like you said, the Oscars, but also wow, I'm really a part of something special here.
I wouldn't say I was that intimidated, but maybe that's because I grew up around generals and admirals. I'd say I was honestly more intimidated by all the attention I was getting. I was little whoa, I felt like the woman of the hour at times. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean, it was really awesome to get to talk to these people, especially Lieutenant General Brito, who introduced my award. It was super great to get to know him. He sat at my family's table during dinner and talked to him, and he had actually worked at the same base as my dad at the same time, and so they were sharing experiences and remembering what that was like. And I think it was a really special moment for all of them. And once again, a sort of like personal connection thing where it was like, now I have that established relationship with him. And it's been really awesome to meet these kind of people. I wouldn't say I was like super nervous though.
Well, you're a better person than I am because I could tell you right off the bat that it would be for me a little intimidating. But no, I totally get it. That's you kind of grew up with that, so really, really cool. So I know you're in college now, but I was reading too on the information sheet about recipients of this award, how they kind of, then turn and educate the public about the military community and the hardships, that they can face. So maybe take us through that a bit, with Long Island Prep and all the programs and services we offer for drug abuse prevention and mental health awareness, I always go back to this idea that knowledge is power. When people are aware and informed of these things, it increases the chances of prevention and intervention. So, in my opinion, it's kind of the way out of the crisis that we're seeing, kind of play out around the country. But getting the word out there about Operation Homefront and its purpose, would imagine would be a really effective way to help others, who are in your position, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Operation Homefront is a great resource, especially for families in the military sphere. I know that they provide not only a lot of social support, but also a lot of financial support as well, which is really, really important. A lot of people don't realize, especially since the housing market issues starting around COVID, that military families have really been struggling with finding housing and reliable housing, and sometimes they're unhoused, and like that's a huge problem. So in that way, those sorts of programs are really, really, really beneficial for the military community. I would also definitely recommend there are so many awesome other programs, not only run by Operation Homefront, who does a lot of back to school programming to help settle kids into the community, but also like Military Child Education Coalition, Bloom, NMFA. These are all great organizations in the community that are actively working to help better these families' lives, and a lot of whom especially in bigger states, have a lot of different chapters that local communities can tap into their resources.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to hear that because, like I said before, I feel like if anybody needs the most support, the most resources, the most help they can get, it's military families because of the sacrifice. It's not just, leaving your family to go overseas, which is obviously an amazing, sacrifice in itself, but, the sacrifices that you endured growing up where, you had to move around a lot, you had, a lot of disruptions in your life and, having that, knowing that you may not be in one place for too long of a time, that's a sacrifice in its own, I think. And for kids, it could be really, really, difficult, just being a teacher, understanding the importance of consistency and, things like that. So, I'm really happy to hear it. And, I kind of hoped that that would be the case because again, I feel like the sacrifice that our military men and women endure, is something this country really needs to appreciate. So. All right, so Jenny, let's talk about the vehicle for how many, great services and positive impacts for our military families. How does that go? Do you guys get donations? Do you have to solicit like corporate sponsors and things like that? I'm sure this is not a cheap, endeavor, which nothing is in the United States, as we know. But I'm sure it takes a lot of fundraising, a lot of awareness, a lot of information, and obviously, a lot of donations. So how does that all kind of play out for Operation Homefront?
So for our Military Child of the Year awards, we are incredibly grateful for the support of our corporate partners whose support it makes it possible for us to recognize these amazing and incredible military children each year. And some of this year's partners include Procter & Gamble, University of Cincinnati, John Hopkins Health Plans, and Homefront Brands. So we're incredibly grateful for their support as it allows us to really recognize, honor, and thank our Military Child of the Year recipients.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. So, all right, Elena, tell us what are your future plans here? What's next for you?
Great question. I still have 2 years left in undergrad, but my current plan is to go to grad school. ideally get my PhD. Hopefully, I want to do research in conflict, a global conflict study, because I'm really passionate about, stopping wars, because I've gotten to live kind of firsthand through, one of the biggest wars that, the United States has gone through, the longest war, certainly. And it's really taught me a lot about how terrible that is. And it's really important that we invest resources and research into stopping future conflicts so we lose less human lives.
I couldn't agree more on that either. And, I feel like, maybe we need to do some research about what's happening inside this country too. I mean, I think that, it kind of, it worries me to see how divided we are at home here, especially when we have our military off, overseas fighting these wars, and then to kind of come home to what's, happening now. But hopefully that will subside soon, because this is the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest military and, the greatest men and women doing their jobs across the world and at home here too. So last one for me, Jenny, let's talk about how you want Operation Homefront to grow. How can we make this, so that it's a lot more than 700, people applying each year? Let's make it 7,000 or 70,000. I don't want to make your job too hard, right? But talk about that for a minute.
No, that sounds like a great goal for next year. So I'm going to put that on my vision board. Let's see if we could hit that target. But we definitely invite everyone to join us and help us help those who serve and who have done and continue to do so much for all of us, so our military families. So we ask that you visit operationhomefront.org to see how you can support through donations and volunteering, or to see how Operation Homefront can help you and military families who may need us.
All right, excellent. And I will help you guys with that. I will put the website address on this podcast. We're going to blast it out on our website also, and on YouTube when I get this thing produced. So I'll get that to you guys. Elena, last one for me. For you, there is a 6, 7, or 8-year-old military child out there somewhere, wherever they are, around the world or around the country, who is experiencing what you experienced, or maybe about to. What piece of advice would you give them to? I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but having gone through it and having the experience and knowing what what it's like to be in their shoes at that age, or maybe even older. So what would you say to him or her, and what would be your advice?
I think there are two main pieces of advice that always come to mind when people ask me this question. And the first one is that you're not alone. That's something that I really, that's kind of the reason why I started the project that I did that won me Military Child of the Year. It was a way for people to connect and realize that their experiences were very similar, and a lot of us go through the same things. And although our struggles are hard, we're not struggling alone, and we can always confide in each other and rely on each other, which is why the creation of Bloom was so important to me, was to let other people know that their struggles are valid and seen, and also not unique in the sense that like they have a support system. But then the second thing I would say, especially looking back now, as my dad's not active duty anymore, and I'm sort of starting this new chapter of my life where I don't depend solely on like where my parents are moving to like make my own life decisions, is definitely take advantage of all of the opportunities and experiences you have in front of you. I tried my best to do that, I think, with military life. If you're overseas, go on that extra trip to that country that's like a 2-hour plane ride away. Or apply for that thing, apply for Military Child of the Year. Even though, the first year I applied, I didn't win. Like I always tell people who are asking me about applying, I'm like, don't be disheartened if you didn't win the first time. I didn't win the first time, and then I won the next time I applied. It's always about, going for those opportunities that you have in front of you, because we are so lucky to live this unique lifestyle and get all of these opportunities that a lot of other people don't. So instead of kind of looking at it or just looking at the negative parts, it's okay to recognize the negative parts, to also try to take advantage of the really positive parts.
Wow, that's great advice. Very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elena Ashburn and Jenny Valderas. Operation Homefront. It's a great organization. Check it out. We're going to put the website right on the page here for you. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us today on the Mission Z podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure as always. Thank you so much. Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast, our Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who wants you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who's bridging the gap that veterans face with services they are entitled to. Just go to ddsforvets.org for more information about their amazing organization assisting our veterans and so much more. So we'll see them on May 23rd at Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall in Wantagh, Long Island, for our 2nd annual Mental Health Matters Night of Inspiration. We've got an amazing night planned. We will see all of you then. And thank you so much once again, Elena and Jenny, for Operation Homefront. And of course, thank you for all of our listeners on the Mission Z podcast. Empowering change. We'll see you again next time.